So far under climate solutions, we mentioned adaptation and mitigation a few times, but all the books I have looked at, including Drawdown, have focused on solutions, right? The 100% solution, how to avoid climate disaster and so on. We haven't explicitly focused on adaptation, which means being ready for what is already considered inevitable or things that are already happening, especially in the global south, which covers all the developing countries. A report came out, a very nice report in 2019 called Adapt Now, a global call for leadership on climate resilience. So often it's said that mitigation is about avoiding the unmanageable, and Adapt Now is managing the unavoidable, and so on. But be as it may, this Global Commission on Adaptation put together this report. Includes big names like Ban Ki-moon, 8th Secretary General of the UN, Bill Gates, you know who that is. We already looked at his book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. Kristalina Georgieva, CEO of World Bank, and then it is guided by 34 commissioners, which include political, business, multilateral, and scientific experts. We will see that it's convened by 20 governments, so established initially by the Netherlands. Now it has lots of important countries in terms of those that need help in climate adaptation, like Bangladesh, Ethiopia. Let's say we also count India, Senegal, and all these other countries, and countries that are very eager to make this happen, like UK, Netherlands, Denmark, Canada, and Germany. As you can see, US is not a part of this list here. Remembering again that Paris Agreement actually explicitly states this: in recognition that climate change is a common concern of humankind, the Paris Agreement calls for parties to respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations on human rights, the right to health, the rights to indigenous peoples, local communities, migrants, children, persons with disabilities, and people in vulnerable situations, and the right to development, as well as gender equality, empowerment of women, and intergenerational equity. So all that is done in terms of understanding, awareness, planning, implementation, financing of these climate adaptation are supposed to respect all these principles embodied in the Paris Agreement. And the argument in this report is that adaptation and the investment needed in it, which can be some large numbers, yields triple dividends: avoided losses, so we are investing to make sure that we are able to deal with the climate impacts, and avoid the loss of life, infrastructure, and so on, food crops, etc. Economic benefits of adaptation, so GDP loss is averted, so it's not just avoided loss, but you actually can do more when you include risk as part of all your planning. Social and environmental benefits, which are always hard to quantify. These are called non-market dividends. So market dividends are easier to count. That's why they are counted. And non-market co-benefits are always hard. So adaptation and mitigation, as I said, two coins of dealing with climate change. They are not completely independent, of course. We see here as adaptation, mitigation, and then adaptation, mitigation intersection. So you have things we have talked about, like afforestation, open space preservation, land use change, relocation, infrastructure protection, emergency response, flood mitigation, and so on. And on the mitigation side, energy efficiency. So this is about reducing our impact on the climate change itself in terms of reducing emissions, traveling less, whatever else is required, like renewable energy, combined heat and power that we talked about under drawdown and in bending the curve, sustainable transportation, methane capture and use, industrial processes and improvements, and carbon sinks. So pretty much everything we talked about under drawdown looked at how we are going to mitigate our impact on emissions. The intersection occurs in green infrastructure, which is a way of adapting to the climate change that's already happening or is expected to happen. Power system resilience, obviously we need to deal with perturbations to the power system by extreme events and so on. Protect sustainable transportation, water and energy conservation, and building weatherization. So reducing energy use is one thing, but actually making the buildings withstand floods and extreme events is always a key issue, which fits both into adaptation and mitigation. Each year there's a big group across the world that puts together these kind of state of the climate report by July of that year. So this is from 2020. And there is a NOAA logo here, but this includes a big team in terms of reporting from local extremes, local impacts, and sometimes what is called climate attribution. In other words, can we take something like Cyclone Gati here and try to say if it was its probability in terms of its occurrence, its strength, its rainfall it carries, and so on, was enhanced by global warming. So that's detection is a change that you look for, and then attribution is the cause that you try to find for whether the probability of occurrence or the strength of the event, rapid intensification and things like that were altered by climate change. Okay, so basically this covers the entire planet, even from the Antarctic sea ice extent to Arctic sea ice extent, and all the continents in the middle. So temperatures, you have floods and droughts, so hot heat waves, cyclones, typhoons, wildfires, and so on. Everything that is significant in terms of a climate anomaly or an event. Okay, so that always provides a good indication of where we are headed. So this is coming back to the Adapt Now report. This is talking about risk of catastrophic events increases with temperature. So it's looking at few sectors that we will go through in terms of adaptation: food, natural environment, water, cities. So cities are a special case for climate impacts, climate adaptation, climate mitigation, and so on. Infrastructure and disaster risk management. So as temperatures increase, these scales go from yellowish at 1 degree centigrade to reddish at 3.5 degrees and up. And we are looking at decline in crop yields, rangeland livestock loss, number of people exposed and vulnerable to crop yield losses, and global food supply disruptions in terms of extreme events affecting the logistical chains. Natural environments, of course, range from extensive coral reef decline, insects, plants, and vertebrates, permafrost collapse, which we've talked about, and rainforest dieback. Water, 270 million people are exposed to water scarcity. Includes physical and economical water scarcity, and includes quantity, quality, and availability. 36% increase in the frequency of rainfall extremes over land, so that changes the runoff, water quality, groundwater recharge, etc., in addition to lost life, infrastructure damage, etc. 10 months is the average length of drought, up from 2 months at 1.5 degrees. So this is some trends are already seen, and some projections are included here as well, as far as these higher levels of warming are concerned. Under cities, we are talking about annual flood damage losses from sea level rise at 1.5 we are expecting 10.2. At 2 it's going to go up to $11.7 trillion, and at 3.5 and above, more than a meter of sea level rise for coastal cities by 2080. You find lots of literature on this as well. Infrastructure, of course, significant stress to global transportation, energy, housing, and other essential infrastructure that would lead to progressively worse damage with each degree of warming. Okay. Disaster management. So percentage of population exposed to more than 20 days a year of deadly heat wave by 21% is going to be up by more than 74%. Countries like India, Bangladesh, various countries in Africa, South America are already exposed to various extreme events, widespread floods, flash droughts, cyclones, rapid intensifying and more rain-bearing cyclones, and so on and so forth. So we'll come back and look at what are the various aspects of ADAPT now in each sector, and something about financing. And there was supposed to be a year of action, I think, in 2020, which obviously COVID managed to destroy. We are here in 2021, and the team is commissioned, the Global Commission on Adaptation is getting geared up again, but COVID is again raging in many places, even though vaccination is going on very rapidly as well. So we'll have to see how the action to make these adaptation now happen is going. Okay, so I'll continue the rest in the next couple of podcasts.